What's glued, my sprue crew? It's Brian Medina here with another how-to video for you here on the Empty Sprue. Raised rivets and fasteners on a real aircraft can be quite noticeable, so kits that come with recessed rivets can sometimes seem inaccurate for some modelers' tastes. Or maybe your kit came with raised panel lines and rivets, but during assembly you had to wipe out a bunch of surface detail, and you're wondering just how you're going to replace all those rivets. Well, in this video I'll show you how to do it step by step. First step, of course, is to get your supplies. Applying raised rivets to your model can be done with these lead-free micro solder balls, commonly found in electronics manufacturing. I found these micro solder balls on eBay. It was a little over $10 shipped for 2 bottles. I ordered the 2 smallest sizes I could find, 0.2mm and 0.3mm. To affix the solder balls to your model, you're going to need a liquid glue. It should be one that dries tight to the surface, that way it doesn't leave any glue deposits behind. And the last couple of things you're going to need is a couple small disposable cups, a paintbrush, a rubber glove, and probably the most important item, an optimizer or some kind of visual magnification, because these things are tiny. So mousse your hair and grab your solder balls and let's get riveting. This technique of adding rivets to your model adds a great touch of realism, and it's pretty simple to do. I found it a little bit easier to do this with recessed rivets that were molded than those that I had created myself. The molded rivets are slightly bigger and deeper than those made by a riveting tool, and it makes it a lot easier to get the solder balls into position. So if you made your own recessed rivets, you might need to do an extra step that I'll show you in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at adding rivets to a model that's molded with recessed rivets. First, put a couple sprays of the mousse into one of the cups, and a small amount of the solder balls in the other. Next, dip your brush into the liquid mousse and put a small puddle on your thumb. Then use the wet brush to load up several of the solder balls on your brush and transfer them to the puddle on your thumb. This is going to be your supply. If the puddle dries out while you're still working, just add a little more mousse and re-wet it. Next, pick up several rivets from the puddle on your thumb and use the brush to move them into place on your model. The trick is to have just the right amount of mousse on the surface. That way the balls aren't floating around in too much mousse. And if there's not enough, then they're not going to stick to the surface. Now, if you made your own rivets, and for whatever reason you need to add raised rivets, the technique is basically the same. But I found that the rivets my riveting tools made were too small and needed to be slightly enlarged. Without enlarging them, the rivets were too small and shallow for the solder balls to set in properly. So I used 2 needles to enlarge the rivet holes. First the smaller needle, followed by a larger one. This will make the holes a little bit larger and the solder balls will fit in position more easily. Also, unlike the molded recessed rivets, it seems to work better to only try to place a few solder balls at a time, because the holes are slightly smaller and a little bit harder to keep the solder balls where you want them. There's probably a more suitable glue out there with a stronger glue-like hold, so if you have one that you like, let me know in the comments below what it is. If you want to learn some more cool detailing techniques, click on one of these videos right here, and I'll see you over there. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos from the Empty Sprue.